Hey everybody, so, full disclosure, I rarely have time to paint during the day, which is why a lot of my projects have been late at night, but I have a unique time where I can paint during the day. We have some nice natural lighting, so I thought I'd do a little walkthrough of a simple cupcake watercolor. So my preferred style is like I splash a bunch of colors around and accidentally make a picture. That's kind of how, I developed a style that kind of has that kind of unintentional look that kind of comes together at the end. And so I'm going to kind of show you how I do that. So first, I just kind of do a nice light water wash outside of the cupcake, and then I start doing the background. So I'm going to be making a chocolate cherry cupcake. So I'm going to kind of play around with some colors here for the backdrops. And this particular setup that I have is just a collection of Winsor Newton watercolors that I put in my little Altoids pan. I've had this for a while, and it's just super easy and convenient. So I just kind of splash around. One thing I like to do is, for all my colors, every section of the painting, I like to incorporate at least 3 shades, which makes it kind of look a little bit more, I guess, complex and diverse and, colorful, I guess you can say. I like to do kind of like similar shades along a particular color palette, so you have your blues. And then I like to sometimes throw in a surprising color. Dab some water, get it nice and kind of messy. I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of moving. For me, like, the messier the better and more fun. Get kind of a nice effect here. I also like combining different mediums. So right now you have an ink outline, which is purposely done kind of messy, like a quick sketch. Okay. Let's blend that a little bit. Dab away any stray things. Okay, so I know I want a chocolate cupcake. So that'll go there. And we're looking at, cherry kind of frosting, I guess. Kind of slather it there. see. What color do I want for... Let's do kind of an aluminum, kind of. So a lot of my watercolor decisions I make are greatly influenced by my background in photography. I used to do a lot of studio work, and so for me, my light source, I typically like it to come from this direction. So my highlights will be on this side, and my shadows are on this side. Bring in another shade, just to add some complexities. And just kind of scrub it around. Nothing too deliberate. And then here is where I start to kind of incorporate the folds, but it's going to be real light, kind of disappears. I think I want to put in a little bit more turquoise in the sky. And get some textures. Rub this guy a little bit, blend him out. Okay. So I do a large majority of the basic coloring with this size brush. And then after I'm done with my general colors, I switch over to a smaller brush to get the details. So for now, I'm kind of letting it, I live in the desert, so it dries super fast. The one time I had trouble painting was the one time we had humidity, and I was like, oh, so this is how people in the Midwest and other parts of the world paint watercolor when they have to wait a little bit longer between layers. So usually I just kind of let this, kind of dry a little bit. I kind of want to throw a little bit more fun stuff in here. And then, so yeah, this is kind of the technique to creating, at least my technique to creating a picture where it looks like you accidentally created a picture. That's what the first several layers are. They're just kind of haphazard color treatments, I guess you can say. And then you go in afterwards and you start refining some of it. Okay, so then this layer is starting to darken, or to dry, I mean, so I come back in and I kind of add to it again. And then I start paying attention to where my shadows are going to be. So making it darker on this side, right underneath where, if the light's coming from here, then the cherries are going to cast a shadow this way, and then the natural shadows created by the layers from the frosting. So my first step is to kind of do the shadows in the color of the item, and then I'll go in later and deepen those shadows with blues. So an example of that could be like right here. Bring in that blue, start to bring that shadow on. And then you smudge it. Get it to spread a little bit. This is a very basic cupcake. I really didn't put a whole lot of thought into this before I started. But if I had to kind of, explain what's happening here, I imagine it's a cupcake on a picnic in the middle of a nice day where it's like on a table with, sky in the background, kind of, typical. Nothing too crazy. Okay, so now I'm going to come in. I could tell that it's still a little bit damp right here. I'm going to start adding complexities to it. Remove some of the moisture right here. So I see that, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Izuli, Izuli 1111 also lives in the desert. Do you live in the Sonoran Southwest? Do you live in the States? Or is it like another area of the desert? I live in Arizona, and right now it's what? It's hot. It's just hot. And we don't have quite so much moisture now. I think we're kind of back into kind of a hot spell right now. But when I was first learning how to watercolor, it was really hard for me to learn the techniques that were on YouTube and all that stuff because my paint was just drying. It was just drying way too fast, and all the details that I was seeing, I couldn't follow along very well. So I kind of developed this style, which is a very splatter one. Oh, you live in Arizona. Cool. So we're neighbors. Okay, so I'm letting this... Tucson, cool. Yeah, I live right around there. Alrighty. So let's bring in... I like using turquoise to help kind of bring complexities to darks. I'm noticing that my brown is kind of running a little more than I would like. I might just have to leave that guy alone and move on to a different portion of the painting. Okay, so now that my general stuff is kind of completed, I then bring in this guy. Let's see. Can you see him? It's a 4, if you can't see that. And then I just come in and I just start deepening lines. The brown is looking a little too thick, so I'll bring that up a little bit. I'll go back in there. Start creating my lines again. And it's going to slowly fade over time anyway because it's still wet, which is the messy look I'm going for. So, as you can see, I've left areas that are white where my highlights are going to be. The hardest part, I'm sorry if I'm sniffing a little bit, I'm trying to get over this cold, it just won't leave me. The back to school cold, I guess. But when I first started learning how to do watercolor, it was an interesting experience because you have to think so much about your whites. And I just never really developed a skill yet for, I forgot what that stuff is called, but you can like white out areas that need to stay white, so you can just paint right over it. All right, so here's kind of like the beginning of shadows. And it just starts to bleed, which is what I'm trying to go for, because it'll start to dilute itself over time. And I just kind of let that sit. What I find to be so interesting about painting is sometimes it looks like a big blur, and then after a while it all starts to come together and your eyes almost help fill in the rest of the picture. Okay. So when I kind of splatter it like that, it kind of creates texture. Kind of wait for that to dry a little bit. Grabbing another napkin, hold on. It's funny, usually when I first started, there's always a point in a painting where you're like, oh my God, I don't know about this. And that just means you're halfway there. And what I really enjoyed about like creating a watercolor account on Instagram is that the art community is awesome. Everyone's so supportive and nice. I haven't had any encounters where people have criticized or judged, you know, like it's very much a embracing community where people kind of, you know, learn from each other and help enrich each other. It's been awesome. Okay, so the shadows, I think, are where the picture comes to life. It's where you start to realize, oh yeah, I kind of painted something here. So this area is still a little bit wet. Trying testing out some different colors here. Maybe I want to dab a little bit more color and texture into there. What I love about watercolor is it's forgiving. If you realize, I don't think I like the way this looks, you can always kind of go back in there. That's what I love. Like, for instance, if I think the colors are encroaching a little bit too much, just rub it around, goes away. Which kind of adds to its kind of I don't know, like accidental collection of colors that form together into a picture. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm having to go in and kind of remove some thickness of the paint so that it shows a little bit more clarity, and the contrast between color and shadow will be a lot more evident. I'm going to go in one more time with the red just to really emphasize. And then just scrape. So what I was saying earlier is I like to put multiple colors in a certain, element. And so my shadows, I like to do a combination of Prussian blue and black. And then, because there's naturally going to be more shadow where this guy overhangs, try to make that. It's a little muddy right now. We'll get there once it dries more. And shadows, to me, when I first started doing them, were scary. It's like I'm introducing a completely different color into an existing color, like blue against red, and I'm like, that just seems like a bad idea when I first started painting. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. It doesn't have to be scary. Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of my details are a combination of creating texture and then finer lines later. It's a slow-going process, and like I said before, there's always a moment of panic where I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I did it right. But then watercolor is just so forgiving that you can continue to play. And I noticed that with each run, like return run over with the shadows, it just gets more and more clear. So you just have to have the patience to kind of wait it out. I think I want to put some texture back into this guy down here. You draw my lines when it dries a little bit. Actually, I think I want to put it back here, put the highlights back here. Just scrub it away. And then let's add in another shade just to kind of make it more, oh, that's too dry. Whoa. Go in, wet it down. There we go. Just let that color kind of exist in there. This particular part of the cupcake got murky, so I kind of want to bring that back. When I first started watercoloring, I really, really wanted to create like those, those beautiful, perfect watercolor photos that you see like on YouTube and stuff where they teach tutorials. And I quickly learned that that's not my personal style at all. Like, I am personally I move really fast. Like, people at my work are always telling me that I move at a much faster pace than normal. And I noticed that kind of played into how I was with my art and how I wanted to create my art, is I wanted it to be kind of like a flurry. Okay, so let's rub that guy a little bit. It's kind of giving him the look of like I'm antiquing this thing. But I just, I want it to be more than just, like a flat layer of a color. I want it to have a little bit of life and texture. Okay. Go back in, create those shadows. Put some black in that blue. So you start the shadow, and then you kind of scrape it out. And in retrospect, with my live going on, I'm usually I wait a little bit more between layers, but I don't know how, right now my kid is sleeping, so you take what time you have. All right, so now the shadows are starting to pop. Scribble some texture into there. Scribble it and then rub it around. Let's see, how do I want to do the stems? I should probably get a skinnier brush for this next time. But I'm not trying to be perfect. That's exactly opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a mess. I'm trying to make a mess that becomes a painting. That is my style. All right, let's get some highlights back in. So there's going to naturally be a shadow that casts across here. Just kind of doing it carefully at first. And then this is always the fun part. Just going back in and kind of Prussian blue is definitely one of my favorite colors to play with just because it's so dramatic. Let's lessen that. So, as I go on, I'm constantly adjusting. Because, you know, as I go, I'm like, maybe it's not that exact type of mess I want. Maybe I want a different mess. So then I go in and I try to make it more interesting. I'm also, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm completely freeballing this thing. It's not clipped down, it's in a watercolor book. Just, it's more interesting that way. Like, I'm the opposite of, I'm the opposite of perfection when it comes to this. All right. I think I want to go back in here and fix this guy too. There we go. I feel like the colors are looking a little thick right around it. By bringing some whites back in, you create a deeper contrast, the colors pop more. Last time. There. Okay. Super simple. If you want to see some of the other things I do, These are some of my other previous spreads. This one. Said you're from Tucson. This is my Tucson thing. And then this is actually from like a year ago where I kind of went on sabbatical a little bit. But anyway, there's my latest edition. It's a very, very simple, I guess you could say chocolate muffin with cherry on top. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.